on my work surface today, I have a bunch of little versions of Origami Butterflies that I'm going to show everybody how to make. The process is fairly simple. All you need is square bits of paper. On my surface, I'm using traditional origami paper, which is colored on one side and white on the other. But literally you can use any old kind of paper, any size. Mine happens to be 6 inches by 6 inches, but you can make it as small or as big as you want, as long as the base shape is a square shape. In the description below, I will have links to the paper I used for today's tutorial. I'm also going to use a bamboo skewer. You can use a number 2 pencil, or you could just use your own fingers to help curl some of the edges of those butterfly wings. So without further ado, let's get started. For the first butterfly I'm going to show everybody how to make, it's this little guy right here. It's a very simple one you can make. You can make it with your kids at home. All you need is a piece of square paper. You do want to start with the white side facing up if you are using a traditional origami paper. I'm going to move this guy. And what I want to do is I want to make a diagonal valley fold going across that paper. So I'm going to take the upper corner of my paper and I'm going to meet it down to the lower left-hand corner. So literally what I'm going to do is I'm just folding that piece of paper over just like so, making a nice sharp crease. I'm going to try to make this as straight as possible. So a nice sharp crease, this is going to help me later on. Okay, open that piece of paper up. So now you should have a sharp crease going down the center of your paper. I'm going to rotate my paper 90 degrees. And again, I'm going to make another sharp crease going down. So taking the corner of that paper and meeting it against the corner of the other paper like so. So now, if all is said and done, and I'm going to make it nice and crisp and lovely, opening it back up, I'm going to have a nice little X going across the paper like so. And now I need basically a plus mark going across the paper. So to achieve that, I'm going to line up this edge with this edge here. So my right edge, I'm going to line up with my left edge. And to fold the paper, I usually like to use my hand, kind of like a karate chop. Woo! And I'm going to fold the paper over like so. So that, here we go. So that when I open my paper, ta-da, I have a nice little line going down the center. And again, I'm going to rotate my paper 90 degrees like so. Again, I'm going to karate chop that paper. No, get out some aggression, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do another valley fold so that I have now a nice little plus mark going across my X mark on my pretty square piece of paper. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the paper over to the color side like so. And what I'm going to do is I want to collapse these edges in. So it's easier for me to work one side in, but take my thumb and my fingers and I'm going to push with my thumb in, and I'm going to create one side of that triangle. And then again, on this side, I'm going to fold it in to create the other side of that triangle. So you should have something that with the two ends going in to form my happy little triangle piece. And then I'm going to flip my triangle piece over. I'm going to take my little flaps and I'm going to make what almost looks like doggy ears to me. If you ever made the origami child's dog, I used to have an origami book when I was a kid, and this was the first origami project I ever made. Was a cute little dog, because honestly the skill level was quite easy. But to make the ears, it's something very similar to this. So instead of lining up those flaps against that center fold, I'm just keeping them slightly off center, so you have a little bit of a triangle running kind of in the center of this larger triangle. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip this over like so, and I'm going to take this, the bottom part of this triangle, and I'm going to lift it up so that part of it does stick up on top, and I'm going to fold it in And you can see what's happening here is it's kind of pushing those flaps outwards. We're creating the pretty curve of those flaps. So we're pushing them outwards. I'm not totally folding it in, just enough. So that way, when I flip it over, we have some nice, lovely curved wings. And what I'm going to do with this little triangle right here, I'm just going to flip that over so that it folds over the top of this piece like so, just like so. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to fold this in. So I'm going to take these two wings and I'm going to fold them in towards the center. This is honestly just going to help strengthen the fold and kind of keep my cute little butterfly together so that when you have what's all said and done, you have a nice little butterfly. And as a further step, if you have that bamboo skewer or pencil or your fingers, add a little bit of life to your butterfly. You can curl the edges just so slightly. You can do the same on the bottom too, but I usually just, for whatever reason, I just like doing it on the top. And curl the edges in. So now you have a cute little butterfly. You can put these in a bowl. You can put, you know, if you have a sewing needle, you can stick that through to make a hole to add a string through and put it on a mobile, whatever you want to do. But it's a fun little project to do at home. So that is the first style of origami butterfly. Okay, so welcome back. So this is going to be the second style of origami butterfly. The first one I would say is more of an easy level. This one has a few more folds to it, so it's a little bit more on the intermediate level as far as butterfly folding, but really it's not that difficult and pretty easy to make. So with this, you do want to start with the white side facing up. Very similar to the first butterfly, we're going to make folds to create an X and that plus mark. And to do that, I'm going to take this corner and I'm going to meet it towards the lower left-hand corner. So the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to meet towards the lower left-hand corner. And we're going to create a nice crisp line right like that. Create our first diagonal mark. And then I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. And again, the upper right-hand corner, I'm right-handed, so I always start with the right side. Upper right-hand corner, I'm going to meet the lower right-hand corner just like so. And straighter you get this, the better your butterfly will look in the end, but especially as you're beginning, doesn't have to look perfect like Bob Ross says. This is your world, this is your art, you can make it however you want. So now I have a nice crisp X running across my square paper. I take my hand and I'm going to keep it so that I can fold this in half to form the plus mark on my paper, having the right side meet the left side, and again, nice little crisp, oh yeah, nice crisp little line. Keeping it up, so nice to have that nice strong line going across. And again, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. And again, with this the right side, I'm going to join it to meet the left side, taking my hand to help guide that piece over. I'm going to fold it just like so. So here we go. So now you should have on your square paper an X and a plus mark. And just like the first butterfly, you're going to flip this over so we have the colored side. And like the first butterfly, we're going to push these edges in to form a nice little triangle. Boom, and boom, like so. So now I have my nice triangular shape. I am going to keep the triangle facing upwards because now I'm going to take these flaps, and unlike the first butterfly, I'm going to match the bottom edge of that flap with the center line that we have created. So just like that, boom, we are going to make a center line with that butterfly. And then for me, it's easier to turn it around because I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to keep everything on the right-hand side. I'm just going to fold that flap down so that the two pieces meet in the middle, just like that. So once you have folded your flaps over and you have that square shape in your larger triangle, what you're going to do is you're going to flip this piece over, okay? And then you're going to take the bottom, so right along this edge here where you see where my finger is, I'm going to push this edge up so that I can fold the bottom in, leaving the triangle on the other side kind of exposed, sticking up over that line. I'm going to fold this in. So what you have is a shape that kind of looks like a canoe with a little triangle floating out of the top of it, or a little hat, whatever you see. But this is the shape you are going for, okay? And then I'm going to flip this piece around. And now this is where it can get a little cumbersome, but I'm going to take these flaps, and what I want to do, it's easier for me if I put the piece down, but I want the flaps to lay flat against the table, and how I achieve that is I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to kind of squeeze this flap down, and I'm going to try to do my best to keep it as straight as possible, but don't fret about it too much if it isn't. But basically I'm going to fold this flap down so to keep this flap flat against the paper. So see how it's not flat? I'm going to have to fold that down. So going over here on this side, and again I'm going to put that down. So, and unfortunately, ideally you would want these to be about the same size, but I must have been off center somewhere, so mine are a little bit different, but for the most part, this is the shape you are going for, okay? And once you have these flat against the table, what you're going to do is you're going to flip your piece around. You can probably already see the butterfly shape kind of coming through. You're going to take this upper triangle and you're going to push it down against the body, very similar to our first butterfly shape. But the difference here is now we're going to take the corner that's pointing downwards and we're going to fold it so that it's pointing upwards. And we're going to make it so that it's pointing a little bit over that line of the butterfly wings, just like so. So you see what I did there? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, so with my finger kind of at the bottom, I'm going to push these wings down, following that center line, and I'm going to fold this piece in half like so. Here we go. So you should have something that looks very similar to this, okay? And then once I have this, what I'm gonna do is I wanna fold, because I wanna kind of create this little body right here. So I achieve that by, I take the wings, so I'm holding the piece like this, and I'm gonna fold and try to make a line that follows where my finger was just tracing. So here I go. I'm gonna fold it, so that I have a line that makes that. And see, you almost kind of have a butterfly shape right there. So with one side folded for one part of the butterfly's body, and I apologize, I forget what that center part of the butterfly is called. I'm sure everybody here knows it. If you do, feel free to leave what it's called in the comments below. But I'm more of an art nerd. I'm definitely not a science gal, so I always forget what it's called. But I've created the first side. Now I'm going to fold the wings on the other side to match this line that I've just created to finish creating my little butterfly body. So here we go. So see, here's my butterfly. And now I want to create the crease that's going to go right here. To do that, we can stick the butterfly. I take the wing and I kind of push it and I try to line it up with the butterfly's body that I've created. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's what I like to do. So I try to match it up with the butterfly's body on one side, pull it out so you see that. I'm going to do it again on the other side. This is where it can get cumbersome. Trying the best that you can to match the fold so that hopefully your two wings are fairly identical looking. So that way when you open the piece and you push the piece out, you have a pretty little butterfly, see? And it sits quite lovely on the table, and it looks great in a little bowl if you have those cute little decorative bowls. But here you go. This is the second style of butterfly. And in just a moment, I will show you how to make the third style. All right, so now I'm going to show everybody how to make the third style of butterfly. This is called the Swallowtail Butterfly. This one I made with some beautiful celestial origami paper that I purchased off of Amazon. I will have in the description a link to purchase that below. So I'm going to set this aside to create this butterfly. It's a little bit more cumbersome than the other two butterflies, but if you made it with me this far, I know you can probably do this one. To start out, again, we want to start with the white side up, but to break away from how we started the other two butterflies, instead of doing a diagonal valley fold, we're just going to do a regular old valley fold. So we're going to take the paper and we're going to fold it in half, so where the right hand side is going to meet the left hand side, like so. And again, nice little crisp edge. So now you have a center line, and we're going to use that center line as our guide, because we're going to take each of these edges and we're going to fold them in towards the center. To start out with, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to start on the right-hand side, and I'm going to put that right-hand side against that center edge like so. Boom. Just like so. And I'm going to flip the paper over, because again, being right-handed, it's easier for me to fold with my right hand. So again, making sure that each piece lines up in the center, I'm going to make those center folds. So now when I open the paper, I should have 4 rectangles running across it. Now I want to turn these 4 rectangles into 16 squares. To do that, I'm going to rotate my paper 90 degrees. Again, using that kind of karate chop method, I'm going to fold the paper in half, like so. So that, there we go. I now have a line breaking up these long rectangles into 2 sets of shorter rectangles, and again I'm going to take my left and right hand sides and I'm going to fold them in so that their edges meet that center line we just created, thus converting those shorter rectangles into equal little squares. So there we go. Not that hard, I promise. Okay. And actually I'm going to move this guy because he keeps getting in my way. All right. So when I open up my square piece of paper, I now have 16 identical squares on it. And now I am going to make some diagonal folds. So I'm going to kind of rotate my paper so it's like a diamond pattern. And using my karate chop hand, I'm going to fold paper in half. Trying to keep it as straight as possible, but like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing in life really is. So now I have a nice crisp line running down the center of those squares. And again, I'm going to rotate it so that the upper right hand corner, I'm going to fold it to that lower left hand corner and form an X mark across my little 16 squares. So hopefully I haven't lost you yet, but it's a little crooked. Oh well, we'll see how this comes out. So now I have 16 squares with an X running across them. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip this paper over so the colored side is facing up. I'm going to take these outer corners, I'm going to fold them all in towards the center corner. So starting here on the upper right hand side, I'm just going to fold that piece in so that the center meets the center mark, and then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Whoop. And again, I'm going to take that outer corner and fold it in towards that center mark. So that corner again meets that center divot, and then rotate it. Whoop. And again, much of origami is nothing but repetitive folding, but that's okay. That's how I like it. And go. And again, folding the last piece in. So hopefully your piece of paper meets up as well as mine does, and you've made a little square. You're going to open up those folds again, because we're going to use those as guide marks. We're going to flip the paper over, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these two edges in towards the center. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my thumbs, I'm going to hold my thumbs at the bottom, I'm going to take my two pointer fingers, and I'm going to open up those flaps, pushing down, and then pushing down with my other fingers, so that what I have almost looks like a little house, or maybe a T, okay? And I'm going to repeat that process on the other side, so I'm going to flip this over, boink, and again, holding my thumbs down, and my two pointer fingers, boink, I'm going to push these down, and push my remaining fingers, I'm going to push the other part down. So now I have what almost looks like a set of lips, hello, talking to me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. Now this next part is a little bit difficult. So what I'm going to do is I have a pencil. I'm actually going to kind of draw, although it might not be exact where I'm going to actually fold, but where I'm drawing is where I want to make creases into my paper. So we're going to make creases that make a little square. And I'm going to start, I'm going to rotate my paper like this so the edges are sticking up and down. And I'm going to take my two thumbs and my pointer fingers, and I'm going to push this section down, and I push it as close to the center mark as I can. And then what I'm going to do is literally just kind of not pushing it all the way down, just pushing it in the center. I'm going to make a little crease like so, okay? And then I'm going to rotate that on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, pushing it down so it meets the center line, trying to make it as straight as possible. My last one wasn't terribly straight, but that's okay. And just pushing the center in, I'm going to make a new crease mark. So you see where I'm going with this. And then I'm going to repeat the process on these two sides. It'll probably be easier to see with these sides. But trying to meet, that edge meets the center mark, and then just fold in along the center so that those lines do meet up to form that square. And last but not least, with this, folding it down so that it meets the center right there. And again, not all the way, but just in the center. I went a little over with that one, but that's okay. So basically, hopefully you can see with the light reflecting off the paper, I've just made a crease square, so to speak. I don't know how else to say that. And now what we're going to do is with those little flaps on either side, I'm going to push these in, and then I'm going to take my thumbs and I'm going to push the bottoms upwards, and I'm going to fold. Here we go. Here we go. And unfortunately, mine, it does look a little bit out of whack, but it's okay. I'm going to fold so that this part is folded. So this is why it's important to try to keep your folds as straight as possible, because it was a little bit difficult for me to do this fold. But basically I folded this side up, and I'm going to do the same on this side. And because I didn't fold terribly straight, I don't think they're going to meet all that well in the middle, but we will see. Maybe I'm wrong. But basically these are still squeezed in. I'm going to push the side up. Ah, yes, see. So on one side it's okay, on the other side it is terribly gapped. And that's okay. Ideally you want both sides to meet up a lot better than this, but hey, for the point of the tutorial, this will work. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over, because the right side is definitely important. If you are working with traditional origami paper, as long as you can see the white in the interior of the wings, you know you're on the right side. With non-traditional paper, this part does get a little bit harder because you don't have as good of a visual cue, but usually, so these flaps, you see these flaps, wrong side, those flaps are gone, right side. Okay, and now with this part, this is where it kind of gets a little bit cumbersome, but we're going to start forming the wings. So what I'm going to do is see these little flaps, I'm going to open outwards, and I have both my middle fingers keeping these triangles pointed upwards. I want them to keep sticking up. But basically I'm going to kind of push these flat against the flaps. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So kind of opening up those flaps, keeping my fingers underneath. I'm going to kind of push, and then I'm going to squeeze everything together. So it forms like, remember those silly little things we used to do as a kid, which I can't remember what they're called. So basically a shape very similar to that. So hopefully you have something that looks incredibly similar. And so these wings are going to be my top wings. These wings are going to be my bottom wings. And so now we're going to form the little swallowy, curvy part of our swallowtail butterfly. It's so pretty. So what we're going to do is, there is a crease that we formed much earlier on. So we're going to take the lower part of this wing, on the lower wing, and we're going to fold it upwards. Now this part is a little bit difficult, so I apologize. I'll do my best to explain. So now this edge, we're going to take this edge and we're going to line it up against this edge. We're merely making some nice crease marks. So this will help us in the formation of our swallowtail. So this is the first crease mark we're going to do. So I'm going to fold that up against itself. So I have a nice little line that should be running a little bit straighter than how I have it, but for the purpose of this demonstration, that should be fine. So I have a line in the center here, and then I'm going to take the bottom of this triangle and I want to match it up against that edge. So here we go, matching it up against the edge. I'm going to take and form this butterfly. So see, so now I have two lines, one running in the center of this triangle and another line breaking this triangle into two uneven triangle parts. And now the tip of that triangle, what I want to do is I just want to bend it downwards so that the point is now facing downwards, and we've kind of blunted the top of that triangle. And then I'm going to fold this wing upwards along that line we created earlier. And I bet you can kind of see it. Here we go. So there's our little swallowtail point. And now what I'm going to do is, so I'm holding the upper portion of the wing with my thumb and my pointer and middle finger. In the lower portion, I have my thumb and my middle finger that's going to push the paper towards the center. And then this, my pointer finger, I'm going to push the paper down. So literally what I'm kind of trying to do is squeeze that paper in on itself so that I can form a nice little tail. So you can use your fingers to point to make this all curvy, or you can use the little bamboo stick. I just use my fingers because what the heck. But there you go. So there you go. So we now have one side of our cute little pointed tail, and we're going to repeat that process on this side. So again, this line, you can hopefully see it. We folded earlier. I'm going to fold that in on itself, and again, just in reverse like we did with the other side, I'm going to create that center mark. So here we go with my center mark where I line this edge against this edge, and then I open it, and then I'm going to line the bottom edge against that upper edge, just like so. There we go, and then open that up. So now you have the two sides. Okay, and then again, like we did with the other one, we're going to point this triangle tip, we're going to push that and point it downwards, and then we're going to fold the wing in on itself like so. So you have the second portion of the swallowtail, and again I'm going to hold it with my thumb and my two fingers, and I'm going to squeeze that bottom point with my middle finger, thumb, and pointer finger, and we're going to form the second little swallowtail. And try to keep it as centered as you can. You can, oops, I'm getting out of camera here, I apologize. And you can form it with your fingers to curl the edges. So there you go. Now we have the two little curly parts to our swallowtail butterfly. And last but not least, to kind of make this bottom wing a little bit more rounded, what you can do is you can take the tip of that corner right there, and you can just fold it downwards, just like so. So we have 1, and again, 2. So now I have 2 little rounded butterfly points. I'm going to fluff up the wings a bit by pushing in the center, kind of opening those up. But there you have it. You have a cute little swallowtail butterfly, and this is honestly my most favorite of all the origami butterflies to make, and it's really not that difficult to do once you kind of practice and learn all the steps. So thank you so much for following my tutorials. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button that should be coming up in a few minutes. All right, have a great night. Bye.